The next time you find yourself embroiled in an argument with someone that's contentious and uncomfortable, say, institute the following rule. You don't get to respond to the person's claims until they've exhausted that particular claim, and this does presume to some degree that you're dealing with a good faith actor, even if they feel differently than you do.
I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Well,
I'm very glad that I've exercised my freedom of speech.
You get my point. It's like you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on.
So
and that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
Except you haven't sat there and... I'm just trying to work that out. I mean...
Ha, gotcha.
You have got me.
You don't get to respond until you have recapitulated their viewpoint and summarized it in a manner they find acceptable. That's so treacherously sneaky, that rule. Because what it means is you have to demonstrate that you attended to what they say closely enough and carefully enough to, first of all, act out validation of the idea that they have an opinion worth attending to. So that's a big deal. People really like being paid attention to. There is nothing people like more than that. So you have to sort of strike right to the quick. It sounds to me like this is the point you were making. And then you lay out the point, and then you see they have to be happy with your summary. They have to be pleased with it, which means that you're doing exactly the opposite of straw-manning the argument, quite the contrary. And you're doing them a favor in some sense by reducing it to the gist, because that's actually an incredibly complex cognitive operation. And so one of the things you have to remember when you're discussing things with people, even if they're out to defeat you, let's say, on any complex subject, there's a lot to be said. Because most really contentious issues, gun control, abortion, those sorts of things, there is a lot to be said on both sides. And that, you're going to come at that with your particular ideological bias, let's say, your temperamental bias, but you need to learn just exactly how localized your viewpoint is. And it's very hard to listen to you. I mean, it's very hard to attend to you because you rattle on in with your ideological speech.
It's not ideological.
Most people's arguments are unbelievably shallow. They're not arguments, they're just perceptual biases. What you really want, if you're going to engage in a discussion, is you want to be familiar with the entire range of arguments, deeply familiar, and have some respect for them. So there's things that can be said that are intelligent across that entire distribution of opinion. And if you're educated, then you should be conversant with the entire range of opinions. Here's another thing I could tell you that if you take to heart will save you an awful lot of grief and misery. If you're talking to someone and they're not listening, shut up. Just stop. It's like you could tell if they're not listening.
I've got to stop, guys. There's too many of you.
Okay, one simple question.
I've had enough.
And if they're not listening, quit saying words. You'll just feel like a fool anyways. It's like you're throwing ping pong balls against a brick wall. You're not getting anywhere. If they're not listening, that's a sign that the situation isn't set up to allow you to progress on the path that you're choosing. And so then you have to stop and you think, okay, well, what's going on here? Why is the person not listening? Am I being too forceful? Do they not understand what I'm saying? Is it too much about me? Do they want to talk? What's going on? Maybe they don't want to be here. There's all sorts of possibilities, but that's when you have to wake up past what it is that you're trying to impose on the situation and explore and see what's there. And that's way more interesting than trying to impose your viewpoint. But it's very interesting to talk to people who radically differ because they'll tell you things that you haven't considered. That doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but it's much more informative to walk away from a conversation having learned something that you didn't know than it is having won the stupid argument which you can't win anyways.